From the library of the New York Stock Exchange at the corner of Wall and Broad Streets in New York City, you're inside the Ice House, our podcast from Intercontinental Exchange on markets, leadership, and vision in global business. The dream drivers that have made the NYSE an indispensable institution of global growth for over 225 years. Each week, we feature stories of those who hatch plans, create jobs, and harness the engine of capitalism. Right here, right now at the NYSE and at ICE's exchanges and clearinghouses around the world. And now welcome inside the Ice House. Here's your host, Josh King of Intercontinental Exchange.
Today we're talking about performance attire for a highly skilled profession that, over the last decades, has become more efficient, safer for end clients, and versed at deploying data for better outcomes. But their legions still show up to work every day in the same colorful frocks that their grandparents wore on the job. What profession, pray tell, am I talking about? Perhaps you thought of the floor traders of the New York Stock Exchange, who still, daily, don the colorful jackets they've sported for decades. Those outfits harken back to a time when slips of paper, a ticker off an hour behind real-time data, and a verbal agreement shouted among thousands of other conversations decided the fate of an investor's fortune. Those imprecise tools have long since been replaced by an electronic order book, algorithmic aided trading, and what some say is a sterile technological environment. But you'd be wrong in this instance if you thought I was talking about floor traders. Today, I'm talking about a profession where a sterile technological environment is the preferred setting. Modern medicine has been improved and disrupted in so many ways, including mRNA vaccines, robot-aided surgical tools, and using a cell phone to power diagnostic equipment. All those examples, by the way, topics that we've tackled on prior episodes of this podcast. The healthcare professionals wielding these cutting-edge tools typically are all wearing the same uniform, unceremoniously called scrubs. My dad wore them as a young resident in the 1960s, and my current personal physician still wears them at his office at Mount Sinai Hospital. I even snagged a pair that I still wear as pajamas, scratchy to the skin as they sometimes are, when my two kids were born at Hartford Hospital on what seems like yesterday. The boxy V-neck tops and shapeless drawstring bottom style isn't all that modern. The look was first popularized in the 1940s and remained unchanged until much more recently. Joining us inside the Ice House is the co-founder and co-CEO of FIGS, an apparel company that set out less than a decade ago to do for the healthcare sector what Nike did for sportswear and Under Armour, partnered with Virgin Galactic, is doing for spacesuits. Our conversation with Trina Spear on FIGS' growth from an idea to an NYSE listed company supporting healthcare workers and digitally disrupting the status quo is coming up right after this.
Connecting the opportunity is just part of the hustle.
Opportunity is using data to create a competitive advantage.
It's raising capital to help companies change the world.
It's making complicated financial concepts seem simple.
Opportunity is making the dream of home ownership a reality.
Writing new rules and redefining the game.
And driving the world forward to a greener energy future.
Opportunity is setting a goal
and charting a course to get there.
Sometimes the only thing standing between you and opportunity is someone who can make the connection.
At ICE, we connect people to opportunity.
Our guest today, Trina Spear, is co-founder and co-CEO of FIGS, which trades under the ticker's symbol FIGS, or FIGS, on the New York Stock Exchange. Prior to founding FIGS, Trina held positions at Blackstone and Citigroup Global Markets. Welcome, Trina, inside the Ice House.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
You know, you and I were chatting a little earlier. It has been about a year since FIGS-clad medical professionals danced in front of the New York Stock Exchange facade to mark your IPO. How has the year and being public gone for you and the company since ringing the bell that morning?
Oh, it's been, first off, the IPO was an incredible milestone for the company. We did bring about 60 healthcare professionals to the New York Stock Exchange. It was really a celebration of everything they've done, not only through this pandemic and leading us through as the frontline healthcare workers that really, saved so many through this time. But, our IPO really marked such an important time for them as the world really got behind them. And our job as a company is to continue to celebrate, empower, and serve them so they can go out and serve everyone else. So it's been an exciting journey. And since we've gone public, I think, as a company, we've really put a spotlight on this community. And that was really what our IPO and being a public company was all about.
You and Heather Hasson founded FIGS in 2013 to address a major shortcoming at the nexus of medicine and clothing. And for the audience, can you explain the genesis of the company that really stemmed from a coffee meetup between Heather and a friend of hers who came to the Java joint straight from her office?
About 12 years ago, Heather was sitting with a friend of hers who's a nurse practitioner at Cedars-Sinai, and she showed up in these big, baggy, boxy scrubs. And actually, the size was on the back of the neck. And Heather said to her friend, what are you wearing? And her friend said, these are my scrubs. And Heather said, those are, pretty bad. And her friend was complaining about how itchy and scratchy they were and, not comfortable at all. And Heather said, well, I'll go find you better scrubs. There's got to be a company that makes, comfortable, functional healthcare apparel. And she thought to herself, there's these billion-dollar companies, Nike, Lululemon, Under Armour, that are so focused on building amazing technical gear for athletes. What about the people saving lives? What about our healthcare community? And her friend said, yeah, there's no company like that for healthcare, and there's no company like that for scrubs. And Heather said, I'm the best shopper in the world. I'll go find you better scrubs. And so she went to one of these stores. There's 4,000 of them across the country. They were essentially medical supply stores. And Heather walked into one, and there was a rack of black and a rack of navy and a rack of white. And all these scrubs were sold next to bedpans and knee braces. And it was just a pretty awful experience. At the time, it was like not only was the product bad, but the distribution model was really antiquated. And how could we as a company really solve those problems and really not only create an amazing, innovative products for this community, but also build an incredible experience by going direct online to healthcare professionals. And so that's what we've done. But very early on, it was, it's still our mission. And what we do every day is very much the same and truly authentic to showing up in the best way for the healthcare community.
So, Trina, while the origin story of FIGS takes place in California, where Heather began actually altering scrubs, New York, where you are doing something completely different, working in finance, your story begins in Miami, Florida. Did your interest in finance and entrepreneurship come from your parents?
My dad was an entrepreneur. He was in the building real estate industry. And so watching him kind of build a business alongside my grandfather, and now my brother is a part of that business as well. So I think I saw entrepreneurship firsthand, and that was an incredible thing. But I always wanted to do something bigger than myself, right? I think I always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. I always wanted to create something tangible. And although I had this career in finance where I learned so much and it was challenging environments working on Wall Street, I felt like there was something more that I wanted to do. I always felt like building and building tangible products with a company would be my path. It just took me a little bit longer and definitely got a lot of training along the way that helped, I think, in building this company.
You've referenced, I think, a line from one of my favorite films, 1992's A League of Their Own, when describing your personal axiom. I think Tom Hanks may have said it, if it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. Where did your own drive to work hard and succeed come from?
Oh, I love that movie, first off. But yes, I think the line is, it's the hard that makes it great, right? And it was Gina Davis leaves and comes back to the softball game. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's all about, right? If it was easy, everyone would do it. It's actually our top core value at FIGS. It's not supposed to be easy. And if you do the things others aren't willing to do, you can find an ability within yourself to do great things and achieve well beyond your imagination. And so, I think building FIGS or doing anything worthwhile is hard, and it's the hard that makes it great, right? It's those moments when you don't think you can go on and you dig to that one extra level within yourself and surround yourself with the best, most talented people, which I try to do every day. And we try to do as a company at FIGS that brings you to, show up in the best way possible.
after heading north from Miami for an economics degree from Tufts and then getting an MBA from Harvard, you spent 7 years working on Wall Street, initially at Citigroup, then up the street at Blackstone. How did those experiences prepare you to run your own company and continue the axiom from a league of their own?
I mean, starting my career in investment banking, I started in 2005 at Citi and was in the analyst program from 05 to 07. And those were really tough years. I think there were more M&A deals done in those 2 years than like ever before up until that point. And even now, I think I did about 14 M&A deals in 2 years, which is kind of crazy. And it's a lot of late nights, sleeping in your cubicle, Diet Cokes to stay going. And there's a lot of expectation. And I think from a very young age, being in those rooms with management teams, being in those rooms with bankers and lawyers and people that were doing pretty massive transactions was an incredible experience and definitely helped raising money and doing big deals here at FIGS, having our own successful IPO. But I think being a young person in finance is an incredible experience and I wouldn't trade it for anything. That's really what my investment banking and private equity experience was like, prior to business school and even going to Blackstone after. You're surrounded with the most talented people doing incredibly challenging work. And that teaches you that it takes a lot, but it's well worth it. And driving towards really big goals and achieving them in many ways can define your career and help propel you not only do great things, but also purposeful and meaningful work.
Now you say you wouldn't trade it for anything, but eventually you did trade it. How did you go from that program and that life to actually doing something completely different in your whole environment by spending your weekends in a hospital parking lot, hawking scrubs at 7 a.m?
Yeah. And everyone thought I was crazy. All my friends and business school friends and family members said, "What? You're leaving Blackstone to go sell scrubs? What's a scrub?" I think having just a bit of a rebellious spirit and a contrarian view on what works for yourself, I think is really valuable. Following the trend, following the herd never gets anyone to do something interesting. And so, it was those moments I was still working at Blackstone. I would fly out to LA on the weekends. We would sell scrubs out of Heather's car and we were collecting cash on the sidewalk. And, I was in this fancy, it was very much the tale of two cities. I was in this fancy office on Park Avenue during the week. And then I was on a sidewalk outside of an emergency room, but just seeing the faces of, healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses coming off of a night shift and handing them, we would go get coffees and hot cocoa and we would hand them free coffee and hot cocoa and ask them about their scrubs and what they liked and what they didn't. And that experience was just so incredible. And they were so receptive to having something better. And I felt, and we still feel like we're really solving a problem. And I didn't feel like that on Wall Street. I didn't feel like I was solving a big problem. I didn't feel, in some days I felt like I was just moving money around a table and didn't feel like this level of, okay, we're really solving a problem. We're really helping people. And that is something I wanted. I wanted to feel that way every day. And then I moved out to LA and Heather and I got a 2-bedroom apartment and we had no furniture in our living room. And that was basically our warehouse. So we stacked up all the scrubs by color and size, by SKU, put every package together and shipped it out, and would chase FedEx trucks before they would, so we can get out the shipments for the day. So, it was those times where you realize like, you don't know what's going to happen, but you know how you want to spend your time, you know how you want to live your life. And I felt as though we were doing something for a group of people that deserved it more than anyone. Our awesome humans, which is what we call our healthcare professionals, deserve the world. And we wanted to build something great for them.
How did you hear about what Heather was up to, and how did you guys actually come together and you decided to no longer come back to Park Avenue on Sunday night?
A mutual friend that I went to Harvard Business School, went to undergrad with Heather and connected us. And, I had heard about what Heather was doing with, scrubs and building a better product. And I thought it was really interesting. And I was out, and I think we spoke on a Monday, and I traveled out to LA on a Friday. And, we talked about what she was doing. And originally it was just, I was going to help her with some of the, business plan, financial model type of work. And as I started learning more and learning more about the industry and learning more about this community, I just felt like this was so needed. Why didn't it exist? I remember Heather saying, like, she said to her friend, what was the Nike of this industry? Like, what's that company called? I'll go buy you those scrubs. Like, what's it called? It should exist. What's it called? And her friend's like, that company does not exist. And it was like, it should exist, right? And the best ideas, I think, are very obvious that even though everyone thought we were crazy, it was obvious that this should exist, right? And so I think the simplicity of what we do, the obviousness now of what it is what makes it so great, right? The best businesses are simple, and our business is in complex in how we get there, but simple in what it is and how we serve.
On an episode of Talks at Goldman Sachs, Talks at GS, you spoke with Goldman's Katie Koch, who's also been a guest of this show, about the journey to find investors to help scale the company. Can you talk a bit about how the company grew and the process that you guys went through to find capital?
Really early on, we knew we needed to raise money. This is a capital intensive business. We do have inventory, and we felt as though we wanted to build something big. And it was not easy. It was not easy raising money, I think, for a few reasons. Number one, the investment community, and even today, are not our customers, right? Investors aren't healthcare professionals. So they didn't really understand the pain point. They're interacting with blood and liquids, and they're in these environments that are really intense. Like, do they really care? And we kept coming back to, as a human being, you want to look good, you want to feel good, and you want to perform at your best. And at the heart of what we do at FIGS, that's what we're solving. And so it was really about telling a great story, helping them understand how this industry evolved, why this hadn't been done before, and really getting people on board with our vision, how we were going to disrupt and completely change an industry. And we got a lot of no's, but I think it's, the more no's you get, the closer you get to yes. And actually, by getting those no's, it helped us really understand the core of what we were doing in a bigger way. And we had raised $2 million at our initial round, and that got us off the ground. And then we raised a bit more from there, and eventually had one investor, Thomas Tull, who came in as a larger investor, and he became our majority shareholder.
As we continue to travel through this story of FIGS' growth, quick sidebar. When Katie was a guest on this show, she spoke a bit about investing in sustainable fashion. COVID really brought into harsh life that sustainable behaviors and disease prevention are often at odds with one another. You got to throw away the stuff that's been used. Is this something that you feel FIGS has managed to find some balance with?
100%. I think, sustainability is core to what we do, and making an impact is, literally ingrained into our DNA in what we do here at FIGS. So, from a supply chain perspective, we're very focused on working with sustainable manufacturing partners, using sustainable fabrications, which we have an entire collection with a recycled poly as the core of our fabric. Not just from a supply chain perspective, it cuts across every single thing that we do in terms of, building a sustainable business from a supply chain perspective, from an operational perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a team perspective. I mean, if you look at our business, right, even how capital efficient our business is, we've only ever spent about $10 million, and we've generated over $1 billion in revenue, just to show how we think about building business. We have about 300 people on the team. We look to generate about $1.5 to $2 million of revenue per employee, right? Nothing about our business is about excess. Nothing about our business is about just doing something for the sake of it. It's with intention, it's with thought, it's with discipline, and with sustainability at heart and in mind.
Trina, with FIGS, you didn't just disrupt what scrubs look like. You disrupted the business model as well. You were mentioning the medical supply stores that you and Heather had gone into and looked around at. You talk about the decision to make FIGS a direct-to-consumer brand and how that model helped the company not just scale, but also be profitable through this various stages of its growth.
I think D2C, it's funny because now people are saying, oh, is D2C struggling? And, D2C is actually the future, right? Brands should have direct relationships with their customers, full stop. Not only from a financial perspective, because, no one is saying, oh, that margin profile as a wholesale business is better than a D2C business, right? From a financial perspective, it's clear that being a D2C business is optimal, but also from an experience perspective. And for us being in the healthcare industry, it was even more important, right? Getting your groceries delivered to your door, getting dresses or jewelry shipped to your house is a really great thing. It's a nice to have. But in the healthcare industry, being a direct-to-consumer business was a must-have, a have-to-have. Healthcare professionals need their uniforms to go to their jobs and do their work. And if you're working a 12-hour, 16-hour, 24-hour, 36-hour shift, you don't have time to go to some out-of-the-way location in the middle of nowhere to go get your healthcare apparel. And so building a business that really served the needs of this community was so important. And there's no other business model that actually was aligned perfectly with this community and what they do every single day. And so we control the experience end to end. We start at the fiber level, create the most amazing products, and then we deliver them direct to the healthcare professional because we believe controlling the experience end to end is actually the best way for people to get what they want when they need it and in the quantity they needed it. And it enables us to have so much information about what they want and what they need so we can continue to innovate and deliver on their expectations.
I mean, that was my next question. You're giving them an incredible service, making their lives a lot better and easier, but being digital and being DTC helps you gather data from them to decide what future types of products to bring to market and also keeping the costs down for both FIGS and your end customers.
100%. So we are able to gather so much information from our customers. You know, it's funny, if you look at this industry prior to FIGS, the healthcare suppliers, right? They weren't really brands, they were suppliers that sold to the stores that then sold to the healthcare professional. The suppliers manufacturing healthcare apparel didn't even know the name of their customer, right? Because they didn't own that relationship. And so they couldn't make something that people wanted. They didn't even know their name. And at FIGS, we have about 1,000 different pieces of information on any one customer. We know who they are, what they do, where they work, what they want, when they want it. All of this information. Okay, I need a pocket with a zipper that holds my stethoscope. I need a specific type of lining that helps as, you know, I'm meeting with a patient. It's freezing in hospitals. I need fleeces and vests that, you know, aren't made to go rock climbing and hiking. They're made to be worn inside a hospital. As I'm running around to my next patient or operating in a surgery. And so, you know, our products are really made with them in mind. At times we're making products because of this data. And at times we're building things that they didn't even know they wanted, right? It's a mix of the art and the science. But the science, the data, how we collect data, how we utilize that data to make strategic decisions, understand our people better so that we can connect in more meaningful ways is in large part why we've been so successful. We have over 2 million active customers in taking all of those touch points and all of that data to innovate on product and connect with our community is really valuable.
Talking about connecting with the community, one of the FIGS' mantras is to really create the world you want to live in. I think that goes far beyond providing a better product to help healthcare workers. How are you engaging actually with the community through programs like FIGS Love and the FIGS Ambassador Program?
Sure. I mean, I think creating the world you want to live in is core to how we think. Disrupting anything requires you to think differently. It requires you to do things in a different way, in a unique way. At the heart of that is love. This community needs love. And we're the company that shows up and delivers on that. An example of this is one of our customers. Unfortunately, her daughter was diagnosed with leukemia. And she was saying, I want to buy purple scrubs for the entire staff that was treating her daughter. And so what we did was we sent about 1,000 purple roses to fill up her room at the hospital, right? And no one expected that, in addition to obviously getting them the scrubs they needed. But these are the ways in which we connect and do things that, you know, just spread love and spread joy as much as we can. Our ambassador program is another example. We have about 300 ambassadors. These are the most influential voices in healthcare. They are showing up doing the world's most important work every single day. And, you know, they are out there spreading this message of how do we get more people to enter this profession? This is the most amazing job in the world, to be a healthcare professional. How do we get to inspire the next generation to not just want to be like LeBron James or Tom Brady or Serena Williams? I mean, I love athletes. We love athletes and celebrities, but we are looking to inspire the next generation to want to save lives and help patients and cure diseases and care for someone and hold someone's hand when they're going through a hard time. We need more people like that. And our company is here to inspire people to want to become that.
More people like that creating the world you want to live in. After the break, Trina Spear, co-CEO of FIGS, and I will discuss how her company is continuing to support the healthcare industry and grow now into its second year after becoming a public company here at the New York Stock Exchange. That's all coming up right after this.
And now a word from Stellantis, NYSE ticker STLA.
Their grandfather once crashed an auto show by driving through a plate glass window on purpose. Their father was the most awarded SUV ever. And their crazy uncle raced sports cars and won. And while the blood of their relatives still runs true, none of them can do what these can. Introducing the next generation of Jeep Grand Cherokee. Available in 2-row, 3-row, and 4xe. The legacy lives on.
Welcome back. Before the break, I was talking to Trina Spear, co-CEO of FIGS, about the founding and growth of the healthcare apparel brand, which she is leading. Trina, since 2020, most of the people pulling on a pair of FIGS scrubs every day have also been required to strap on stuff that's a lot less comfortable, PPE. How did the pandemic affect your operation? How did it affect your decision to IPO in 2021?
I think during the pandemic, it was an incredibly challenging time for our healthcare professionals. I remember it was in the middle of March, we started getting those calls saying COVID is in the United States. My employer is asking me to wash my mask that I've now used for 4, 5, 6 straight days in the sink. I'm asked to put my mask in the oven so that I could decontaminate all the bacteria, and it was just this crazy, crazy time where they didn't have the protection they needed. At FIGS, our job, we were looking at each other saying, oh my God, we need to get them what they need. So from masks, isolation gowns, N95 masks, hazmat suits, we went to work, right? We've completely shifted our supply chain. We manufactured hundreds of thousands of units of PPE in addition to donating all of our scrubs and other products within our product portfolio to get healthcare professionals what they needed to go essentially to war, right? They were going back into these hospitals. They were the front lines of this pandemic. It was a crazy time. And I'm really proud of how we showed up and how we really worked around the clock to get our healthcare professionals what they needed. But it was insane. And it continues to be a challenge, right? In institutions across the country. I think we have a better handle on it, but it is something that, continues to, take the healthcare community away in many ways from their day to day. So in terms of how it impacted how we went public, I think, we did grow tremendously. I think even over the past 10 years, right? We've grown over 100% every single year since we started this company. Actually, last year we grew over 60%. So I'll take 2021 out of that. But it was that growth, not only prior to the pandemic, during the pandemic, and now post the pandemic, that was why we, as it went public. I think the thing that differentiated us, and it continues to, is not only having this growth, but also sustainable and profitable growth, right? Doing it the right way, the profitable way.
Less than 5% of public companies have a co-CEO structure. Why was that the right governance of FIGS? And how do you and Heather complement one another's abilities?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing thing to have two leaders that care as much as me and Heather at the top, right? I think it really does work for us. Heather is a creative genius. She's very much focused on product innovation, bringing completely new products that solve problems to this community and really get in the hearts and the minds of this community so that we can continue to deliver and bring amazing things into the world. And I think where I focus is how to ensure that we hit our mark, that the trains leave on time, that this level of operational excellence that we strive for is achieved. And I think it's between that's what FIGS is all about, magic and creativity and operational excellence. And when you put those two things together, you can do really amazing things. And I think that's why it works for us, having both sides of the brain, having both ways of thinking about the world in one company, leading an amazing team every single day.
Well, we're often told about both sides of the brain, Trina, maybe in this case, a third side of the brain. There's a third member of the FIGS executive team, your CFO, Daniela Turenshine. She joined the company for the last 2 earnings calls. She's been with the company several years and was an interim CFO back in 2019, but took on the role permanently in 2022 as really the markets began this wild ride that we're still continuing. How has she done during this trial by fire?
Daniela Turenshine is an absolute rock star. I mean, there's nobody I have seen jump into a role like this and just take it on in such a graceful and unbelievable way. I think Daniela has been with us about 4 years and really understands every aspect of the company. Right. I think, D2C is a new way of operating, right? Not a lot of executives from large companies really understand our business model. And so Daniela really does, understanding what customers want, when they want it, delivering it with, every single day, right? Our calendar is not seasonal. We have a non-seasonal business. We have a replenishment-driven business. We have a non-discretionary product. All of these dynamics make our business, we're a workwear business, we're a uniform business. All of these dynamics are very specific to FIGS. Over 80% of our sales are 13 core styles. 70% of our customers are coming back. 70% of our revenue is repeat customers, right? And so all of these dynamics are very specific to us. And Daniela, as our CFO, has really driven a lot of the strategic priorities and has driven this incredibly differentiated financial profile of growing at a phenomenal rate and doing it with an incredible profitability profile.
We looked over the transcript of your last earnings call, and Daniela was asked how FIGS is being impacted by inflation and or rising energy costs. Can you speak to that and how issues are affecting both the growth and the prices for the company?
Over the past 2 years, there's been supply chain challenges, right? All through 2020 and all through 2021. We've navigated as a company, I think, the supply chain crisis better than most. And I think in the first quarter of this year, there was a certain portion of our shipments that, were delayed more than expected, and that impacted the quarter. And so, we talked about that. And I think what we have at FIGS is an incredible ability to navigate through any challenge. And we don't operate the business quarter to quarter, right? And all of this is super transitory. If you think about whether it's the freight cost or, okay, we're going to be airing more goods than we expected, our goal is to get our healthcare professionals what they need to do their jobs. And so if we have to air a little bit more, if there's a increased cost because of some supply chain dislocation, that does not change the overall trajectory of this business. It doesn't change even what we're going to be doing the next 6 months, next 12 months, next 10 years, right? We're building an iconic brand over the next 100 years. And so where we're really focused is, yes, in the short to medium term, navigate the best we can, build the business, grow in a sustainable, profitable way. And most importantly, do the things others aren't willing to do. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Create the world you want to live in and show up and create for the most important people, our healthcare professionals, and the market will follow.
So we love to geek out here on Inside the Ice House on things that people don't know a lot about. And one of them probably is your proprietary fabric, FION-X, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. What makes this the best fabric, and how does it help create this special sauce that makes FIGS scrubs such a premier apparel?
Our FION-X fabric, which is our core main fabric, is an incredible fabrication. And the best fabrications are twofold, right? And they're not only comfortable, but they're also technical. But it's really hard to create something that is I would say, this is what we strive to do at FIGS, right? Technical comfort is the core to how we build product. And so having something that is, when you put it on, it's super soft, you feel like very comfortable, but at the same time, it performs for you. So what is FION-X, right? At the core of it, it's technical comfort. We have our FION Light that we now call FREE-X, our FREE-X fabric, which is an amazing fabrication. It's recycled poly. It's an incredibly sustainable fabric. We have more product innovation coming from a fabric standpoint, but also from a style and color standpoint. And so innovation is our North Star, and we're going to continue to bring new, incredible innovation from a fabric and a product standpoint as we move forward.
Let's talk about innovation at the very bottom of the body, the feet and toes. Anyone who's spent their days standing on a hospital ward or trading floor knows how important shoes are to make the entire outfit comfortable. How did your partnership with Boston's own New Balance come about, and how has it helped you clothe healthcare professionals literally from head now to toe?
We love New Balance. So early on, when we would do our photo shoots and films, and I don't know if people know this, but every piece of our marketing always is with real healthcare professionals, right? Our awesome humans. And we would always, as we were putting our shoots on, we would always put them with New Balance. We had a number of ads in transit, right on the T in Boston. And Chris Davies, who's part of New Balance, saw that ad on the subway and he said, "Oh my God." He thought it was a New Balance ad, but it wasn't. It was a FIGS ad. And so he pinged me and he said, we got to do something together. And we said, we would love to, right? And so this was years ago, we started developing a partnership in how are we going to create and develop the shoe for the healthcare community. And so we spent about a year just developing, shoes that for people that are standing on their feet. You're not running a marathon, you're standing on your feet, and New Balance is known for comfort, right? And so how do we build that sole when you're in a 4-hour surgery so that your back is straight and you're comfortable and it's ergonomic? How do you make it so the leathers, when you drop a scalpel, it's not puncturing through? Liquids and blood, how do we make sure it rolls off the shoe? And so all of that was super important. And that's been an incredible partnership for us. And it's been amazing to see all the different launches that we've had over the years with New Balance.
Tallying it all up, with or without counting footwear, what do you think is the total addressable market for your products in the United States?
So the market, we did a third-party study, 12 billion in the US, 79 billion globally for healthcare apparel. But we believe those numbers are really understated because of all of the different categories that we've launched and that we sell products in today that are not in that 12 billion, that are not in that 79 billion. And I look at Lululemon actually as an incredible example of this point because, when they went public in their S1, their TAM was $500 million. $500 million. Now I haven't looked at their stock lately, but 1.50 billion, 30 billion, 40 billion, somewhere in that range, right? Lululemon far exceeded the TAM in their S1. And I think we're doing something similar, right? Where it's the market as it stands. What I say about this is lazy companies sell into TAM, innovative companies create TAM. And so I think the most innovative companies create TAM. And, I don't know if Uber was saying, what's the taxi cab industry TAM, right? No, they were looking at how many people drive cars, right? Or how are we disrupting transportation? Here at FIGS, how are we bringing an entire layering system? What are people wearing to work, at work, from work, on shift, off shift, head to toe? What is that TAM? It's limitless. And so that's how we think about what we're doing here at FIGS.
I don't think I jotted down that international number that you just quoted, but international expansion is definitely part of your strategy. How global is the brand now, and what are your projections for growth of that part of the business?
Total global TAM is 79 billion, 67 billion right outside the US. We have a fraction, we have essentially 0% market share internationally. Only 8% of our sales are international. And so incredible amount of runway. There's 130 million healthcare professionals around the world, right? This is an incredible market that no one has touched. And a healthcare professional's experience, whether you're living in Germany, in Munich in Germany, or Istanbul in Turkey, or in Kentucky, had a similarly awful experience before FIGS, right? And so we're changing that. We've changed the lives of healthcare professionals in so many ways, and we're looking to bring comfort and functionality and design and comfort to so many people around the world, but also a better experience and a brand that they can believe in and stand behind or alongside.
Heather did an interview last year in which she said, and I'm going to quote her here, "I think it's very important that we are the role models. We are women CEOs, women founders of a company." What does being a role model mean to you?
Doing what you say you're going to do, right? Showing up with intention and believing in others so that they can reach their highest potential. I think being a role model is doing things for the right reason. Every day we wake up here at FIGS and we know what we're here to do. We have a big mission. We have an incredible purpose. And so it's just acting within that, acting with integrity, acting with excellence, giving 150% every single day. I have a sign on my desk that says awesome energy only. So you got to bring awesome energy every day and give everyone everything you got. Some days you don't feel like it and some days it's hard, but that's what it is. It's showing up consistently day after day after day for the right reasons, doing the right work for the right people. And I think that's what we're doing.
FIGS successfully disrupted the healthcare uniform look after a century of the status quo, as we said at the beginning of the conversation. Do you have plans to expand into other uniform professions?
I think right now we have, a really small percent of even the market as it's defined today, right? We have a 4% market share in the US, 0% market share internationally. We have so much to do to continue to serve and show up and support the healthcare community. We have discussed other uniform categories. Uniforms in general are broken. And if anyone's going to bring comfort and functionality and design to these other uniform categories, it will be us. But in the medium to long-ish term, call it the next 5 years, we are very much focused on healthcare.
Finally, just a couple of years, you've accomplished so much. What do you think is next for you, and what are you most excited about in the future?
For me, for FIGS, we feel like we've just gotten started. And even Heather and I were talking the other day, and we were looking at our original vision for what we were set out to build. And we feel like we've barely scratched a little bit of that initial vision, right? There's so much to do. There's so much to create. There's so much to build. And we could not be more excited. We are in the fastest growing job segment in the world. We sell non-discretionary products to the most amazing people. We have an incredible competitive strength, amazing business model. We don't need to raise money. We have an incredibly strong balance sheet. We are growing in an amazingly profitable way. We control our destiny. But most importantly, we're showing up for these people, and we have so much that we want to create for them. And so we're so excited about the future. I could not be more excited about what we're going to continue to do, not only on the product side, but also on the experience side, how we're going to continue to scale internationally, how we're going to continue to build out all of the categories that we've entered. A lot to do, but definitely excited to keep showing up and doing the hard stuff.
Controlling your destiny and showing up for your awesome humans. Trina, thanks so much for joining us inside the Ice House.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's our conversation for this week. Our guest was Trina Spear, co-founder and co-CEO of FIGS. That's NYSE ticker symbol FIGS. If you like what you heard, please rate us on iTunes so other folks know where to find us. And if you've got a comment or a question you'd like one of our experts to tackle on a future show, email us at icehouse@ice.com or tweet at us at IceHousePodcast. Our show is produced by Pete Ash with production assistance from Ken Abel and Ian Wolfe. I'm Josh King, signing off from the library of the New York Stock Exchange. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
Information contained in this podcast was obtained in part from publicly available sources and not independently verified. Neither ICE nor its affiliates make any representations or warranties, express or implied, as to the accuracy or completeness of the information and do not sponsor, approve, or endorse any of the content herein, all of which is presented solely for informational and educational purposes. Nothing herein constitutes an offer to sell, a solicitation of an offer to buy any security, or a recommendation of any security or trading practice. Some portions of the preceding conversation may have been edited for the purpose of length or clarity.